All right, hello and welcome. How is
Okay.
everyone doing on what I hope is a fantastic Tuesday, May the 4th, and may the 4th be with you indeed, everyone. I hope that you've had a fun Star Wars day. With me, as always, is the awesome co host, John DiMarco. How are you doing tonight, John?
Thanks. Hello, everyone.
And as we were talking just a second ago, I'm a horrible, just the worst at remembering things. So unfortunately, it's going to at least be one more week before I figure out some solution so we can get John's camera up here because he actually has a webcam now. But unfortunately, the stream ended last week. I went to bed and I promptly forgot just everything to do with that until about 5 seconds before John came on. And I went, oh yeah, he has a webcam. How can I get that in? And of course, I had no idea because I hadn't thought about it. But we got a good episode. Well, we got an episode of SeaQuest for you tonight. It is, I'm pretty sure if I looked at the production order, this would be the Halloween episode. If I were just hazard a guess out there. Which for the 90s meant the satanic episode, but we can't go full on satanic because it's the 90s, so it's only somewhat satanic, as you will wonderfully see. And of course,
It's
at some
family,
point, Darwin's going to save the day. You just know it's going to happen.
of course. It's like family-friendly version of satanic.
Yes. Well, 47 Yorktown, how are you doing? I see you were here just a little bit early and posted a lot of a bearded man face. Now, I don't know if that's supposed to be me, which pasty yellow complexion, short beard, it might be me, or it's supposed to be John with his beautiful beard, which unfortunately we will not be able to see until I get the camera thing worked out. And Professor Brainy Specs is maniacally laughing. I think that would be a maniacal laugh. What do you think, John? Oh, I may have lost John. Well, I think it's a maniacal laugh.
Seems kind of maniacal to me, yes.
I think
Yes, I agree it's maniacal, as I was saying.
I think he may have found a TARDIS, and I think he may be the master. To be quite blunt, based on what I see over in Discord. Josh Street, where is Matthew Taserface Shortshanks? He's late to his own stream. Incorrect, my friend. On Tuesdays we start at 9:30, and it's a good thing we did because my daughter and one of my sons were just an absolute not going to sleep rebellion tonight. Just absolutely not going to do it. Until like 10 minutes ago. So 10 minutes ago they finally just zonked out, but they did not want to. We've rearranged their rooms. My oldest son, he's getting to the age where he really can stay up later, you know? But he was sharing a room with my second son, who really needs to be getting to bed earlier. So we decided to put my second son in with the same room with my daughter, and they're really excited about it. It's just they're not wanting to sleep because they're so excited about it. And both of them are upset because daddy's the one putting them to bed instead of mommy spending all night with them. But eventually they did relent and sleep. Thank goodness.
Also, I have an important announcement.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I have an important announcement to make. The list of impeachment articles for Life with Matthew have now reached 500.
Oh, how they really? Oh, I got it. I gotta jump over here and check this out real quick. Article number 500, forgetting to set up the SeaQuest stream for John's webcam. I think that is a worthy number 500. Cheers, everyone. 500. I knew we could do it.
Here's to the next 500.
Here's to the next 5 indeed. And yeah, I mean, John is, or not John, I definitely think Professor Brainy Specs is the master now. And he's saying the master. What? Yeah, the master. I at least recognize him from who? His from whom? him from who? But no, I'm not subjecting you to satanic rituals. Someone else did them. I'm just letting you see what they did. And yes, unfortunately, Vile Mike, I absolutely missed your Star Wars Jeff Nerdy stream that ended 20 minutes ago. I'm gonna have to go back and check it out. Because thankfully, it's everything we do online is here forever. There's no getting rid of it. So no matter how much we may wish certain things could never see the light of day, it's always here forever. Or at least until YouTube purges us. You know, whichever happens first.
Like the time Matthew thought he was recording a video and he actually went live.
It's true. If it weren't for that one video, I wouldn't be doing any of this. I'd still be doing only like pre-produced videos, which, John, I saw you just released a video today.
Yeah, so my ongoing research into Star Trek doppelgangers, I released the first part today.
Now, so without spoiling it too much, how far did you get into Trek for this first part?
I got up through the end of TNG.
And I don't want you to give us the number, but I do remember somewhere early on in TNG, you were already well into the double digits for doppelgangers. So a lot more than you may think. Anyone who thinks they know Star Trek, you may be surprised how many John finds.
I don't even know how many parts it's going to be.
And Joshua is saying, article number 501, Matthew thinking someone is the master other than his master, Bird of Prey 5. Well, no, see, Bird of Prey 5 is our benevolent dictator. But when you talk about the master with a capital M, from a non-religious standpoint, there is only one master. And last I saw him, he had spiky blonde hair. No, wait, I take that back. That's a lie. Last time I saw him, he was a she. So, yep. The Missy instead of Master. Which I guess, why didn't Doctor change his name? I guess if they changed the Doctor's name to like the nurse, I guess people would have decried that as a sexist thing. But changing it from Master to Missy, they decided wasn't sexist, just kind of funny, perhaps. At least they think they're clever. Vile saying, yes, I will have to watch it, and I expect a fully detailed report from you, Life with Matthew. I will, Vile. I will have bullet points and cross-references, MAL style, Chicago format, all 9 yards, just for you, Vile. Of course, it is a well-known fact that I am forgetful and a Kurogan who lies. So, I mean, you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, you're never getting a report on that.
Professor Brain's saying that she is a he again. I'm not sure if he's talking about himself, or are you talking about that you have seen? Oh, that's right. That's right. They made the master a individual from the Middle East, and the first thing he did when we saw him was hijack a plane and try to blow it up, which I felt was extremely racist. But apparently they thought that having him laugh, frankly, he laughed like someone who had a mental handicap, and they thought this was the best way to represent him. So they missed the mark a little bit. They missed the mark quite a little bit.
You must have loved it. It was that racist.
Man, that got too racist even for me. I mean, I draw a line somewhere, and mentally handicapped Middle Eastern plane hijacking bomber is that's the line. Once you get to that far, I'm like, nope, I'm not comfortable with this anymore. This has gone too far. We gotta stop. Full reverse. But unfortunately, I wasn't in charge.
But when Mr. Code of Honor thinks something is too racist, you know you've gone too far.
I know, right? It's like you messed up, man. You absolutely that's wrong. And before we start, we do just kind of stall just a little bit here as we let people come in. But last comment here before I get things going. Vile Mike was saying that I should have skipped episodes and gone to one of the SeaQuest episodes that had Mark Hamill for May the 4th. Well, that would have been incredibly intelligent. However, there is one unfortunate issue, and that is I didn't know Mark Hamill was in any SeaQuest. So I go into every episode blind. In fact, I try to watch it the afternoon before we do the stream. So around lunchtime to 3 in the afternoon, I go ahead and watch the episode just so it's fresh in my mind for this stream. So I had no idea that Mark Hamill appears later on, assuming he does. I don't know if that's actually factual.
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
I kind of hope it is. I love seeing Mark Hamill and stuff. He's a guy who just has fun being an actor. I don't think I've seen him play a role where he wasn't just doing his best to do whatever they wanted him to and have a fun time doing it. Like he played one of the Flash's enemies in the 1990s Wesley Ships Flash. Not Wesley Snipes? Oh gosh, you guys should know I'm not going to be good with names. Who played the Flash from 1990? It was.
Pretty sure it wasn't Wesley Snipes.
No, it's a different Wesley. I'm sorry, I'm constantly wiping my nose. I got some allergies going on. John Wesley Shipp. You grant me a little bit on that one. I mean, that's a pretty close. Wesley Snipes, John Wesley Shipp. That's really close. When every episode they give all three names for him. And so just being like, John Shipp. Anyway, he played the trickster in the Flash 1990s TV show, which Flash 1990 TV show is actually a really good TV show. I really enjoyed it. And Flash is one of my favorite characters, so it had kind of a leg up in getting me to like it from the get-go, but it was still a very enjoyable TV show. But man, Mark Hamill came in playing the trickster, and he chewed up that scenery, just having a blast. And of course, if you ever listen to him do the Joker in the Batman animated series, he is just phenomenal. And that's right, Vile. He also reprised his role in the Justice League DC animated universe, and also the 90s-ish, early 2000s maybe, which was one of the best episodes. It was starring Flash as he was about to get this museum open for him, and four of his rogues got together: Captain Boomerang, Captain Cold, the Trickster, and I think the Sports Master. And they said, "There's no way we're gonna let this happen." No, Mirror Master. It was Mirror Master, and they decided to go against him. And Flash, he handles all of them except the Trickster. He comes up to the Trickster and he sits down next to him at the bar because the Trickster, he got left out because the other guys are like, "We're not doing any of your plans." And he's like, "You're off your meds again." And he called him by his name. He didn't call him the Trickster. "You're off your meds again, Edward," or whatever his name was. And it was this incredible moment from a superhero that you just had come to know as this goofy, fast-talking guy throughout 3 seasons. And all of a sudden, he had this really heart-to-heart moment with someone who was supposed to be one of his classic rogues. Fantastic episode. Loved it so much. So now that I've gone on against things that have nothing to do with SeaQuest and have dragged poor John along with all this, let me go ahead and drop the link to our screening room, and I will be pinning this over in YouTube. I wish I could pin messages over in Twitch. I haven't figured out a convenient way to do that yet. But I will eventually figure it out and get it up there. But here's the way it works, guys. Anyone who's been here for a while knows this, but if you're seeing this for the first time, let me explain it. That link I just pinned over in YouTube, while this stream is going on, you can go to this room, and what it does is it syncs up all of our watch times so that we're seeing the same thing at approximately the same time, maybe plus or minus 5 seconds, I don't know. And that way, as John and I tell you what's going on, what the character's saying, maybe talk about some of the absurdities or really interesting things about what's going on at that moment, you have the ability to watch it right there with us. If, however, you cannot watch the screening room with us today, you can see the clips right here. So if you're on a cell phone or your computer just isn't powerful enough to have more than one window open at a time, like you're on a Raspberry Pi or something, we will provide clips so that you can see it all in this one self-contained window. However, after the stream is over, if you want to watch the screening room later, unfortunately you can't. It's going to be gone, guys, after the screening room or after this stream. At that time, you have to go to Peacock TV, sign up for a 100% free account with them, and you will be able to watch all 3 seasons of SeaQuest, which we thought were coming down, but thank goodness they realized they'll just be stupid. They realized they were being idiots by taking Darwin off the airwaves. So they left SeaQuest up there so that you can continue to enjoy it for the foreseeable future.
As Mike says, Darwin is the best character.
That's what they present him as, and after today's episode, I mean, the evidence for him being just the best character. Well, you know what? Dagwood comes pretty close to usurping Darwin as the most important character for this episode. But Darwin is still
close second,
very high up there. And Vile Mike, you take care, saying he'll listen in, or he'll be listening in later. So take care, Vile Mike. Hope to see you around later here. So I'll give us a 5 count, and we will go ahead and get this thing going here. So come over to the SciTube screen room, or pull it up in Peacock, or however you want to do this. If you have your own copy, then do that. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, hit that play button, people.
The Miranda colony.
Deep below the ocean. And we're getting this little blurb about this Miranda colony, about how it's a wonderful place. It's a place dedicated to the sanctity of all human life, and about how great it is here and harmonious. But of course, it couldn't be further from the truth. You look around and there's trash cans on fire. There's a mob chasing one guy down for some reason. And that guy has a crutch. He's just running around with a crutch, waving it. So apparently he would rather be in pain running on his injured leg than actually, not beat this guy to death with a crutch. So for some reason, this guy's being chased.
So yeah, just another Tuesday in Karoga, it looks like.
And she's upset. Like, there's people knocking down the door, and she's nitpicking about the fact that he has reconfigured a plasma torch into a weapon. I mean, people are literally right outside the door. They picked up a park bench, it looks like, and they're trying to beat it down. And he's ready to deal with them all. And she has grabbed a hypo spray and knocks him out. And she's saying, you just need to sleep. You need to sleep. And then she unlocks the door, opens it to the mob, and there's no one. It's just an empty corridor. Everyone has instantly dispersed. Or have they?
Or were they even there to begin with?
And the kids want to know, what's going on, Mom? What's happening? And she's saying, I'm not going to tell you. Instead of answering your question, just go into your room. Lock the doors. Don't open it for anyone, not even me. And she goes over to the mirror, and she finds out that she's Sam Beckett, hoping that each next leap will be the leap home. Or she's gotten really old, something like that.
One or the other.
Hey, Daniel's Hot Topic. How you doing?
He's sitting outside Quint's Nautical Treasures.
I didn't even notice that in the first one. I was too busy being amazed by the coffee beans costing like an obscene amount of money. Bridger's asking if the refills are free, and they say no, not since coffee beans cost like $250 a kilo or something. And here we see in the far, far future, 2018, they will have been able to miniaturize computers so much that a credit card machine sized device will be able to be a video phone. I mean, that's pretty far out there. I don't know if I buy that.
What a wonderful modern age we live in.
But here we go. Here's our Star Wars reference. She says, "Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're our only hope." In about that many words.
Cue the music.
Starring Roy Schneider, Jonathan Brandis, Don Franklin. But no, what she was saying is she doesn't know, like she feels like she's losing her mind. She doesn't know if she's actually talking to him. She's so far gone, she thinks that she may just be hallucinating making the video call to him in the first place. Which you're pretty far gone at that point if you don't even know if you actually made a video call. And apparently, the security clearance she had was 10 years old. So, like 10 years ago, they set up this Miranda colony, and the UEO never gave them updated security codes in all that time. And everyone knows it's a peaceful colony. Bridger wants a boarding party gathered. Make sure you train them carefully. Make sure you're armed. And the new lieutenant guy, he's like, "Come on, the worst they ever had was they ran out of herbal tea." But Bridger still feels like there's something weird going on. They're hailing them, but no one's picking up the phone. The Whiskers see that there's some kind of human activity, but no one's responding. And Bridger lets Ford know that, hey, I used to be involved with this lady, so I trust her implicitly. Like, I tried to marry her before I married Carol, but she turned me down flat. I mean, it's a pretty decently sized colony. It looked like there are 3 spheres that we saw, or 3 domes.
Yeah.
And of course, B'Elanna Troy needs to be involved in this. She senses fear, despair. So she needs to be there.
Of course.
And that's got to be a hard way to dock, with the nose going up to a docking port, because the SeaQuest is not a small ship.
Now they're being swarmed by the residents.
And apparently, the guy in the background that you see in the clip right there, he also appeared in Star Trek Enterprise as an ambassador for a couple episodes. But I think he may have been heavily make-upped. Or Star Trek Enterprise, to be precise.
Yeah, he was on DS9 as well. He played the admiral who wanted to take over the Federation.
Okay, his voice is extremely familiar. They had one rule for everyone who wanted to come to the colony. Everyone had to be committed to creating a sustainable, non-violent community. And yeah, it was nothing much to do on a Saturday night until 4 weeks ago when all of a sudden domestic abuse just shot through the roof. There were muggings or shoplifting. It was 2020 under the sea.
It must have been those Karogan immigrants they let in.
And then the mutations started to happen. Strange, horrifying mutations. So this is their medical ward with their most violent patients, the ones admitted the earliest. And they got like these demon horns protruding out of their skull and fangs. And she asks Bridger to take a look at them after she does, and it's nothing. Just a guy sitting there kind of thrashing back and forth. And Bridger is understandably confused. He said, this patient is normal. And she looks at him again, and she sees him as this, frothing, demon-horned guy. And apparently, like, everyone sees him this way. And Bridger just sees nothing. And this is how far the hallucinations have gone. Now, I do think this is a fascinating idea that they've created. The fact that there is some sort of something going on to the people that's making them all insane, and everyone is collectively hallucinating together. So it's not that I have this individual hallucination that they're deformed. Apparently everyone is seeing the same people deformed. But we say that, but there was the hallucination of the guy at the beginning who was being chased by the mob that, like, as soon as he was knocked out, the mob was gone. Hard to tell if the wife saw that or if it was just him seeing it. And Dagwood wants to help out any way he can. So instead of giving him like a weapon, the lieutenant gives him a walkie-talkie and says, "Guard the water pumps and call us if there's anything problems."
I sense violence.
And Ford makes some interesting points here. He's saying, how can we say that? How can you tell us that this isn't just like them writing because they're bad people? Basically, if you keep making excuses, then they can't change. And she says, "Well, I don't think that's it." Basically, which I think is I hope they eventually take a look at this, or some other sci-fi series out there takes a look at this today, of the dichotomy that exists between someone meeting the expectations you have for them and the personal responsibility they still bear for their own actions. And Belana Troy isn't completely useless. She calls aside the main researcher guy, the guy in charge of this colony who founded it, and points out that the level of order that he had was typically only seen in the police state, as if the amount of crime that didn't exist was actually an indicator of a larger issue. Like North Korea, very crime free, but at the same time, you have secret grocery stores because the state doesn't provide you with everything you need. Like every family gets a set number of blanket, regardless of how many people you have in that family. Like it completely ignores your actual needs to make sure that everyone has perfect equality. Now, I don't blame her. She is completely all over Roy Schneider here, who does have some wonderful magnetism going on this season with that beard of his. Because everyone knows a beard really makes a man look manly.
Indeed.
In fact, one could argue that the better beard they have, the more manlier they become, which means I am a pale candle in comparison to John.
Well, I wouldn't want to brag.
So then there's like this whispering wave that erupts from, or not erupts, but like expands out from this area. And when they're exposed to it, these two guys all of a sudden feel real good. And this lady comes begging for help, that she's being robbed, her store's being looted. And they come up and they're just completely trigger happy. The guys beg for forgiveness, but they say, nope, you're not being sincere enough. And they shoot him. And the lady's really shocked. Like, why are you just letting them go? And they turn on her. Like, you have a problem with this? They're like, well, we just risked our lives for you. Maybe you should be a little more thankful. And they're kind of looking like King Kong looked at that lady that in the King Kong movie Anti Trucker showed me a couple weeks ago. But fortunately, Dagwood shows up, and and he's like, "What are you guys doing? This isn't you." And one of them decides the best course of action at this point in time would be to try to cold cock him. But Dagwood is completely unfazed and, throws him behind them, knocking them out somehow, and calls in for support, saying, everyone's gone crazy over here.
Admiral Layton's like, what have I done? Puts his hands over his ears.
Hey, Trek Reviewer, how are you doing? Saying that Robert Foxworth, who is the guy we just saw clutching his head, I do believe, who plays Roy Shelton in the episode, also played the Valkynian ambassador Velas in Enterprise, Admiral Layton in DS9, General William Hughes in Babylon 5, and in real life was married to Elizabeth Montgomery from Bewitched until her death in 1998. Very cool. And the other guest star, what did she play in? She played in the short Trek. She was Tilly's mom.
Oh, wow. That's quite a step down from SeaQuest.
Yeah, it was. But Deanna Troi, again, being more useful, or not Deanna, B'Elanna Troi being more useful than Deanna Troi, actually is noticing that everyone is giving in to their basest desires. And that whatever has infected the colony has apparently also infected SeaQuest, because the brainwaves that she's getting off of all the SeaQuest members, which, yes, was a gross invasion of their personal privacy, like matches a sociopath's. And Bridger's arresting everyone. Arrest the lieutenant for sassing at him. Arrest B'Elanna Troi for being aggravating. Like, I wouldn't be at all surprised if he took a swing at Darwin the way he is right now. But instead, it's Darwin is basically saving the day. He's calling Bridger out for being mad, for being angry, and for being scary. And Bridger realizes if Darwin's saying it, well, gosh, I better be listening. Which, knowing Darwin,
what do we do without him?
Yeah, I say, knowing Darwin, he probably reached into Bridger's mind right now and gave him a mental boost to get him through this time.
I think that's very likely. But between Darwin and Dagwood, they're in good hands.
Or flippers, as the case may be.
True. And while Pickle is swimming around outside the colony checking on something.
I wonder how they did these scenes with him. If he actually was swimming and just did some ADR stuff over the swimming shots, or if they just kind of green screened it. I think it's pretty practical.
That's a good question.
Either way, someone's doing something pretty fishy outside, and it's our man, Foxworth?
Oh, yeah, that's the actor's name.
And Piccolo tries to follow him, but he gets hit by some sort of energy discharge, or maybe it's the psychic wave messing with him. But either way, it's interfered with his ability to breathe underwater. And he's drowned. He's actually drowning despite having gills.
Go save him, Darwin.
Help him, Darwin. Which he kind of gets lucky, because I could see Darwin being like, there's only room for one Deus Ex Machina on this show, and it's going to be me.
Well, Darwin is selfless along with all his other amazing qualities.
Better come look at this, Captain. There's something really strange going on here, that unless you're directly aligned with the source, you can't see this interference pattern coming on Whisker number 3. But of course, Lewis recognizes it, and he says, that's a chaos cloud, or chaos path, something like that. Hey, Robert Rose, how you doing tonight? That is indeed Piccolo, the one who's just passed out on a gurney. I don't believe he's from Namek, but he is green after drinking that much seawater, I think. So Bridger's just going to leave the lieutenant behind with the panicking colonists while they go and investigate wherever this chaos cloud is coming from. And yes, it was the chaos cloud that electrocuted Piccolo. And we see that as the SeaQuest gets closer and closer to this source of chaos, the psychic emanations are even more intense. The pulsating is getting stronger, and people are freaking out.
Neil describes it as the face of God, but Lucas calls it a chaos cloud.
The physical reverse of all things living, I think is what he called it, or all things whirly. But everyone is literally just like straight up hallucinating as they come close to this. the pilot felt like she lost control, and Bridger's, he's being a captain, rallying them. No, it's just an illusion. You can do this. Close the ballast. We can't. We're locked out. And Bridger says, ignore it. It's still an illusion. Just manually close them. It can work. And sure enough, Ford's able to close it, and they're able to back off and get some. Is altitude the right word for being underwater when you're going up?
I guess you'd either decreasing their depth. I don't know if there's a better word for it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to ask Darren next time I see him. But whatever it is, the Chaos Cloud is evil and growing, according to B'Elanna Troy over there. But what could it possibly be? Unfortunately, Piccolo has no idea about anything he saw. He has complete amnesia for short-term memory. And they're getting readings from the trench. They're getting imaging from the trench, but there's something weird about it. It's too featureless. Lewis is saying it's a repeating pattern. It's too perfectly featureless. It has to be fake data. And Ford says maybe we tell the UEO at this point. But Bridger says no. If we do that, they're just going to send in a nuclear strike force, basically. And the last thing we want is to, drop a nuke on this colony. We're on the trench with the colony right next to it. Unfortunately, things are getting even worse over in the colony. Someone tried to torch them with a homemade flamethrower, and Bridger says, well, what about your Model K? Which it's interesting that Bridger calls him your Model K at this point. Because I kind of felt like Bridger had like a real connection moment with Dagwood and wouldn't have just called him Dagwood or called him your Model K, like he would have called him Dagwood. But he says, look at the Model K. He's not having any problems. Ask him what he would do. Take his advice. And Dagwood suggests maybe getting everyone together and singing songs. It always makes him feel better. The lieutenant says, okay, yeah, kind of like church. And Dagwood says, well, what's church? And poor Dagwood, he's upset that he's not feeling the insanity that everyone else is feeling. He feels like that's somehow making him less human. But the lieutenant actually responds with a really nice thing. He says, no, the truth is you just don't have, when they made you, they didn't give you a hateful bone in your body, and that's why it's not affecting you. It's not that you're not human. It's just that you are so altruistic. And he wishes more people were like him.
Daniel's hot always mentions that he has a family member in the hospital. So, my condolences on that, Daniel.
Oh, is that your little puppy, Daniel? I remember you talking about it over in Discord the other day, or is this another family member that's gone in the hospital? But either way, I am very sympathetic, and it's definitely a rough thing to go through.
B'Elanna Troy is mind melding with Captain's old girlfriend.
That is literally what just happened here. And the old flame of the captain was saying that, she knows that it's a very private thing to do these mind melds, and you're not allowed to do it without permission. So she's offering to open up her mind to her if it will help her maybe figure out what's going on. But apparently, like the only point of it was just so she could see that the old flame really had wanted to say yes when the captain asked her to marry her. And Daniel's saying that yes, it's Kiko, his little puppy's in the hospital with cancer. I'm sorry to hear that, Daniel. Any chance that you might get to go see your pup in the hospital, or I honestly don't know how vet hospitals work. Unfortunately, most of my animals met much more tragic ends than the natural old age issues. Whenever they let you, I'm glad to hear that, Daniel. That whenever that you're at least allowed to go over there whenever the hospital lets you in. And Lewis is definitely having some Project Prometheus doubt going on in his life right now. He's just consumed with the idea that he can't crack this, and maybe the problem is that he's just an artificial intelligence living out his life in a constructed environment. So Ford brings him over to Darwin, and again Darwin rallies the troops, and says that Lewis is a good kid who is fun to play with, and squirts Lewis with some water. And Lewis says, well, I guess a virtual construct wouldn't be this wet, which is incorrect, Lewis. Though he is correct that he's not in a virtual construct, he is incorrect that it wouldn't be wet. I mean, if you have a setting that talks about your saturation for different parts of your avatar, then, I mean, if you've set that setting to wet, then your avatar thinks it's wet and responds appropriately. But Ford points out
that Commander Ford's
go ahead.
Was saying basically the same thing. That meanwhile, Commander Ford's being a great officer and backing up Lewis.
He made Lewis realize that he was going too hard. That he bypassed the simple stuff where Lewis would normally start, and Lewis realizes, well, yeah, that's right. I normally would just do a dictionary hack attack where you just Matthew, John, tomato, throw a couple numbers on there somewhere, maybe an exclamation point here and there, and that gets most of the passwords out there. Most people choose something very, very basic, like a street name or like their high school mascot. Very, very basic stuff. Favorite pet name. And then they put on just the bare number of extras to meet password requirements, which is why password requirements are one of the most insecure requirements we've ever had. Like when you set up a password, it says it must contain one capital, one lowercase, a number, and a special symbol. I know not to try any password without those four things. Yes, it's good in that I've increased the number of possible things from 26 characters up to like 52-ish. But at the end of the day, I've told you what characters have to be in there. And then I've even said it has to at least be 8 characters, so I don't try anything below 8 characters. So, I mean, just if you just said it has to at least be like 8 characters, and we recommend it has these things, then you would find that you would have a much more secure password system rather than advertising your requirements. But unfortunately, that's neither here nor there. And they realize that the head scientist guy kind of bugged out in that suit. And they find out where he was, and he reveals to them that there was this secret facility he had built. And it was a psychic facility, because up on the surface, psychic powers are limited because there's just too much static, too much human noise, which, again, I love that idea. There's just too much thought activity for a psychic to really have strong powers on the surface. But when you're isolated into a group of more like 100 people, your powers become more strong. But he's saying the goal of the facility was to beam good vibes into the facility colonists. And unfortunately, it was a complete failure. But what was a success is that they were able to absorb the negative energies away from the colonists. So it was the same effectual result where the good feelings were enhanced. It's just instead of actually enhancing the good feelings, they robbed the negative. But there was a problem. Once he got that negative energy, it had to be contained somehow. You know, kind of like Egon containing all the spirits from New York. And the scientist guy unfortunately has some confirmation bias with his own research. He talks about there being a negative force that he was able to draw away from people, as if just there's this as if people weren't responsible for their own actions at all. There's just this outside malevolent force, and he was able to absorb that force away, and people became the best versions of themselves. But they've run out of power. They can't contain it anymore, and it's just growing out of control. It's going to take over everything. And this guy keeps making me chuckle a little bit because he has like this half mullet going on. Like, it's not a full-on mullet, but it is just a little bit extra long and curly at the back.
As you're about to meet the devil, we're all going to die in the attempt. Ominous music.
And Bridger gave him a look that literally said, "I ain't afraid of no ghosts." Bradley Briggs saying we could all be in a simulation right now, and how would we know? Pretty true. We'd never know if we were. Now, Occam's razor dictates that we're not in a simulation, but if we were, we'd have no way of knowing. So the lieutenant begs someone sing, and of course,
Dagwood's got to.
Go on.
I was saying, yeah, they got everybody together to sing. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, of course, whenever this happens in real life, you're like, someone sing. You always get that one person, guy or girl, who overestimates their singing ability and really starts belting it out in some operatic fashion, thinking they're really awesome. And we get that lady, and she starts singing Amazing Grace, which, of course, is like the song that everyone knows, regardless of their religious affiliations. But it works. Once they start singing, everyone gets the good vibes, and they start to calm down just a little bit. And Bridger's giving a nice speech here, but I do disagree with the general premise that he's saying that we're inherently good and we're going to be life affirming. And I actually don't believe that. I don't believe people are inherently good. I believe that we inherently have sin in us, and it is the grace of God that restrains us from acting out on that sin. But I don't think that makes us inherently good. Nor do I think that makes us inherently evil. I do think that we are predisposed toward evil tendencies. And as long as God extends his grace, we don't act out every last one of those desires. That's why there's no such thing as a person who is completely evil, because even the most completely evil person we know, by the grace of God, still has some of his tendencies restrained.
As much as I hate to say it, I agree with you, Matthew.
Don't worry, it's just the one time per week. I promise not to make it more than this one time like I did last week.
I'll hold you to that.
And Robert Rose
Amazing
Jr.
Grace is not working anymore.
Well, they stopped singing.
That's
If only they knew the second verse, they could have kept it going. And it's the vortex is growing even stronger, and the head scientist or colonialist notes that it's like a chaotic black hole. The more chaos it absorbs, the stronger it gets. And now even Bridger's hallucinating at this point. He sees his son up on the view screen. It's reaching a critical mass and gaining consciousness. And of course, the first thing it says is "I am." Robert Rose Jr. raises an interesting question. If you were to follow the SeaQuest logic that they laid out in this episode, how much more powerful would Professor X Xavier have been if he had been underwater? Now, I think that's kind of what he did with Cerebro. He created an environment in which he was isolated. But it would be pretty cool if they really kind of delved into that and set up some sort of additional shielding other than just like, oh, I created this yada yada something shield, and therefore that's how Cerebro works. But like if he actually had to have lead plating and be inside like a water-filled dome and kind of like dealing with psychic thought the same way that you would deal with radiation.
Meanwhile, SeaQuest is just straight up rammed the lab, and Bridger and Admiral Layton are going in to confront this thing.
Now that's becoming a bit of a habit for them, using the SeaQuest to ram to just fix things. They rammed it into a magma trench at the end of last season, and now they're ramming poor research stations, which are creating malevolent sentient beings. But this is the heart of it, and he's saying, look, it's just a hallucination. All the wind whipping around of us, it's 100% fake. And his son is screaming out, "Don't do it, Dad! This is the only way I can live." And the scientist guy tries to grab onto it, this rod that is somehow the containment of all the malevolence, and they need to shatter it. But as he grabs it, his hand turns into a skeleton, and he wrenches himself back, but Bridger grabs it and smashes it. And as soon as he does, calm just radiates through everyone. The psychic emanations stop, and we see the chaos cloud dissipating away, or dying, as Alana Troy calls it. Which, if you think about it, I mean, it's kind of like, did they just straight up murder someone? They talked about it gaining sentience. It was starting to communicate. If they created this Frankenstein monster to only be a ball of malevolence, is it unfair of them to assume it could only be a ball of malevolence?
Good question.
Bradley Briggs is saying, my friends think I'm a really nice, generous, loving guy, and I always correct them and say, no, I'm just really good at controlling my bad side. Josh Street wants to know, when does scientists say Kurogans are real people? Well, I think it's settled science that Kurogans are real people, but it's less settled if Kurogans have souls. Uh, so scientists say we're people. The religious communities still iffy on the status of our souls. Unfortunately, apparently finding out if Kurogans have souls is placed at a slightly lower priority than if cats have souls. They did unanimously decide that dogs have souls. You just look into their cute little eyes. But cats, it may take a while for it to get to Kurogans. And poor Dr. Sheldon, somehow when he grabbed that and got zapped by the psychic energy, so he saw his skeleton hand, it aged him 20 years. But Bridger wasn't. And Bridger says, well, why not me? And Dr. Sheldon, I think is what they just called him, he says that it's because your soul wasn't the core of it. So somehow his soul had been integrated into it, which I think maybe a little iffy on that. Now this thing blows me away. You just saw Captain Bridger holding this lady's hands, walking into the room. As they walked in, directly behind her husband and 2 children. I don't think I would personally be that okay with my wife holding hands walking behind me with her former lover.
I guess before all this happened, they're all just hippies, so I guess he's cool with it.
And I definitely wouldn't be okay standing off to the side as he kissed her on the lips and then gave her an intimate hug and said, "We'll always have Paris." But like you said, they were hippies. And I certainly don't mean to shame anyone for the things they're into. At least out loud. I may judge you privately all I want. But the day is saved. Everyone is present and accounted for. The boat is secure. And it's time to go home.
Now we get some fascinating facts about human-dolphin communication. Brought to you by Lewis.
It's kind of surprising Lewis had never made an appearance before now. But at least they picked a good spot for him to talk about dolphins and how they talk with their melons, and which is the front part of their head, lest anyone think something inappropriate.
That was just you.
And there we go. That was today's episode. So, what did you think about the episode today, John?
I think it's always fun to see Darwin save the day. Plus, he had a good assist by a Dagwood as well. Anyway, I thought it was a very interesting sci-fi premise. They did some interesting things with it.
Yeah. I think so this was a real common trope at the time. You had stuff like in TNG, the episode where the devil came back to claim the souls of the people. And it turned out it was just, someone capitalizing on the superstition that this devil lady would come back, and they were able to use tractor beams to cause earthquakes, stuff like that. And then you had things like this episode where the devil was in the chaos cloud, and you had episodes of like Farscape, which admittedly was a few years later than this, where you had what was his name? Count Dooku knockoff, basically. Durka. Durka was his name. And he was this black magician and evil sorcerer guy. And then you had a Doctor Who episode like this where they literally, with David Tennant, they went to the abyss, and this black hole was the abyss where Satan was chained up, or they kind of yada yada past it at some points. But it really was a bit of a trope at this time to have a sci-fi episode where it got supernatural, but at the same time not really, because we don't want to offend religious people. So it's supernatural, wink wink, nudge nudge, yeah. So I honestly would have enjoyed it more if they went more into the supernatural side, or they kept it purely sci-fi. But kind of the weaving back and forth, it didn't make for an episode I was super pleased with, even though I really, really enjoyed the premise, as I talked about throughout the episode as it came up.
I see what you're saying, although I do like that they do sometimes kind of swerve a little bit into religious ideas. When you have something like TNG, would always stay as far away from that as possible.
Like last season with the ghost boat.
Yes.
Which is kind of why I assumed that this was probably their Halloween episode. It certainly seemed to fit a Halloween release date.
The date looks like it was early October, so you could be right.
I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks if there's an even more Halloween-y episode. Maybe Lewis goes trick-or-treating aboard the SeaQuest, dressed up in a little skeleton suit. I could see Krieg doing that. And Captain Bridger being like, "What are you doing?" "Well, Captain, it's Halloween. I thought I'd go door to door, seeing what people were giving out. A little morale boost."
We'll have to see if you're right or not, won't we?
Was there any part of the episode where you would have enjoyed it if they had done something else? Any part of the episode that was just kind of a little lacking for you?
I think B'Elanna Troy maybe reduced her role a little bit, although she did do a couple of useful things this time. When she did the mind meld with the old girlfriend, it didn't really seem to have much of a point.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of lost that. It wouldn't hurt too much.
Yeah, that scene definitely just kind of existed to really spoon feed it to us that no, she really did love you, Captain. And I guess I had already accepted that she loved him, even though she had rejected him. Which was kind of weird when you think about it, that while she was trying to get with the captain, her husband was probably in like the room next door, or maybe he was in the med bay. Maybe the kids were still locked up in their room. It was it was weird. I guess my minor tweak would have been to make it so she wasn't married and had kids. Just leave her as an old flame that you run into. And you could still have the opening scene, just instead of it being her husband, just have it be another colonist.
Yeah, that could work.
Bradley is saying even Baywatch got into the sci-fi stuff in the episode where the oil came alive and tried to kill everyone. I never watched Baywatch. I had no idea that was an episode. I think the most I know about Baywatch is that the lifeguards always ran slow, and it had David Hasselhoff and Pamela Anderson. And that's it. That's the extent of my Baywatch knowledge. I think it had Hasselhoff.
Yeah, I think so.
David Hasselhoff. Baywatch. Yeah. Yeah, and there's that meme with him him swimming in the water like a jet boat, basically. Anyway, don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much. And Josh is saying, no Life with Matthew. Bird of Prey 5 shows up dressed as Matthew Taserface Shortshanks in the Halloween episode. I see how it is. Hello,
now that
world.
would be scary.
It's Matthew Taserface Shortshanks. Well, John, final thoughts about the episode? Anything else you want to say as we wrap up here?
Just to mention briefly, I like that Dagwood was apparently immune. He's all kind of feeling like a data character. He's like a data character, but even more childlike. So he sees things from a very interesting point of view.
I did enjoy that. He definitely is childlike, although he is technically the oldest of the Gelfs, and that'd make him like mid-20s maybe.
Yeah.
They didn't really tell us how much older he is, just that the Gelfs all celebrated their 21st birthday at the beginning of the season. Josh Reese wants to know if I remember Thunder in Paradise. Oh, the Hulk Hogan movie or TV show. A TV show. I don't think I ever saw it.
I don't know that one myself.
I mean, I certainly recognize Hulk from it. And he's dressed up extremely Hulk-like. But I definitely don't remember it. It looks like it had one season, so that sounds about right for a Hulk film of the time. And 2 straight to VHS movies. Oh gosh. There was one Hulk Hogan movie where he had to, like, he was an alien and he had to babysit some kids. The only thing I really remember from it is that there was a point where he was walking past a car, and this is when car alarms were like becoming really popular and kind of, only rich people had them. And so the car alarm goes, beep, beep, you are too close to the car. Please back away. And Hulk is like, what? And he comes closer and it's like, you are too close to the car. Please back away. And of course, it's convertible, and he can see the little voice box right there in the center console. So he reaches in and he rips it out. And as he's ripping it out, the car's like, no, wait, my mistake. You can get as close as you want. Please, no. And like he rips it out and throws it away. And that's the most I remember from Hulk. Suburban Commando. Thank you, Josh Street. Yes, that's what it was. Oh, gosh. Hollywood Hulk Hogan. He was just, I don't know. I enjoyed his stuff. It was so cheesy. It was wonderful. And yes, Mr. Nanny, and he had a lot of, I want to say underappreciated, but let's be honest, they were exactly the right appreciated movies. I might have to make Anti-Trucker watch Suburban Commando. Yeah, that was a 91 movie. Oh, that's great. That's great. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us. All in all, this episode, it's not my least favorite. I think they really did a good job setting up the plot line for the episode. I think that it was a fun thing to look at. I think it raised a lot of good questions. They didn't go quite as much into it as I would hope, but I don't get to be in charge of everything. But just the idea of, talking about there being this outside malevolent force that could be drawn away, and then Bridger talking about people being inherently good, and Ford talking about people still having personal responsibility, and you can't just make excuses for them like the devil made me do it. I thought it was a really interesting thing to look at, wish they could have gone more into that. I love the idea of psychics being more powerful in the water. I love the idea of a facility designed to psychically influence people, which is something we've seen, in lots of other places, like Firefly. The core systems tried to make it so people were better, and as a result, some people became so compliant that they just lied down and stopped breathing and died. Whereas other people, it mutated and they became hyper aggressive reavers. And so, I mean, I really enjoy it when they look at an issue like that. And I felt like this episode, it did a good surface level look into it, which, would have preferred more, but it's at least a good start. It's a good look at things. So that's my take on it. John, final words here?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Well, I enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting episode.
And I gotta agree with you there. It was 100% an interesting episode, which still makes it better than a lot of Discovery's best.
Oh, it's light years better than Discovery.
But I mean, like, even the best. Take the best episode of Discovery, and I think that this episode was at least it was more interesting. It looked at issues in a more mature and complex manner than just browbeating us with the position you're supposed to take. All around, I'm saying this as like this was an episode of SeaQuest that was middling for me, but it still looked at things in such a compelling way that I could at least have fun watching it. Even though I'm not like, oh, wow, this is my favorite episode of SeaQuest ever. So with that, guys, we will wrap it up. And I hope to see you next week as we continue our wonderful reviews of SeaQuest Season 2. Next week will be Episode 5, which has a name that I don't recall.
Vapors is the next one.
Vapors. Oh, okay, so it's going to be about e-cigarettes. Well, I look forward to it.
I'll bet you do.
Everyone, y'all take care, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. And be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.